News Talk 94.5 WPTI, 96.7 FM WTOB. You're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. This morning, you have Garrett Ray and Brice Payne in the studio, and we are digging through the listener mailbag, answering your questions. How you doing, Brice?
That listener mailbag gets full every month, and we weed out the best questions from our listening audience out there. So maybe one of these questions will be from you if you sent one in to us. I'm doing well, Garrett. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I think, like many North Carolinians, I'm getting a little tired of all this rain. Thank you, Helene, for that. I know that the folks out there in the western part of the state have, just unspeakable amounts of damage. My heart and our hearts really go out to you guys for that. It's been unnerving watching some of the footage from that part of the state and that part of the country, and our minds and hearts are with you.
Yeah, I used to live up in Asheville, and all those videos that I'm seeing, the drones and whatnot, I know exactly where those are at. Unbelievable, the damage. So, Garrett, why don't we this week do that Wealth Guardian Service salute specifically to those first responders and the reservists and all of that are putting in their time and energy to help make the lives better for the people who are up there going through this hardship right now. That is just, we are really thinking of you up there in the North Carolina mountains and the Tennessee mountains for that matter as well. We wish you all the best, and we hope that everything gets back to normal for you as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and what are we doing here, Garrett, this month?
Well, this week, we do need to get to the getting to know your advisor.
Yeah, it's true. We did got to do that. So what is our question? As you know, out there, if you listen to us, you know that we start off every show with asking ourselves a question so you can better get to know your Wealth Guardians advisor, so that the time comes that you do come in and sit down with us to make sure your retirement is all lined up properly and you're doing the right things to plan for your retirement, that you have a pretty good sense of who Garrett, Doug, and I are. So, Garrett, what is the question we're asking ourselves this week?
Brice, we have to know, what is your favorite season?
Okay, you go first.
For me, it's autumn. I think a couple of years ago I might have answered summer. I'm starting to become a larger and larger fan of autumn. Just the weather's normally beautiful. I know we've had a little bit of a hiccup here lately. I just like it because, the humidity is typically down, that you start seeing color on the trees. It's just an enjoyable time of year.
Absolutely. And I will second that. Fall has long been my favorite season, though I'm a little biased because my birthday is Halloween.
Yeah. So you got a reason.
So I've got a reason, but it's football season too, right? The colors and all of that, but the kids coming by and knocking on your door, trick-or-treating, and you show them your driver's license that says your birthday is Halloween, so you get to reach into their bag and take a piece of candy instead of giving them something. Okay. It's the best time of year, absolutely. But yeah, this is absolutely my favorite time of year. From now until early December.
There you go.
Yeah, very good. All right, so we're dipping into listening to our mailbag here, Garrett, and we've got some good questions this week. Hopefully we get to all 6 of these.
Yeah.
What do we got first? We got Marty?
Yeah, Marty, he writes to us from Flat Shoals, and he says, I've heard that you need to have between 15 and 20 times your annual salary in savings to be able to retire comfortably. Do you think that is accurate? Yeah, I guess we like a good rule of thumb like anyone else, but that's really all it is. That could be an accurate statement, but the real answer is, unfortunately, Marty, we don't know. A lot of that depends on your lifestyle, your spending habits, how that money is saved. Are you just talking about having that money just sitting in cash? Is that money saved and invested in something? Is that real estate that cash flows in your retirement?
What other kind of income you have in retirement?
Exactly. Yeah. What other kind of income do you have in retirement in addition to Social Security, that sort of thing?
You might not need any. You might not need any savings. And now that's a pretty rare case. So I don't want to tell anybody out there that you probably don't. You probably do need some kind of savings, but it is technically possible that if you've got a pension and you've got rental income or some kind of passive income coming into you, that you're living within the means of those incomes right there, that you don't need other assets. Again, not likely, but we certainly have our share of clients who are in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah. We've certainly seen clients that have, a pretty impressive real estate portfolio that cash flows very nicely for them. they don't have much in the way of other traditional investments, such as, like CDs at a bank, or they don't have a huge stock portfolio, that sort of thing. But they're living quite comfortably. So, Marty, this is I guess I'll say it's an okay rule of thumb. But we need to know a little bit more about your personal situation. And like Brice says, what forms of income can you expect to have reliably in retirement?
Yeah, Marty, and anybody else out there who has heard some rule of thumb like this, that, I can't retire until I have X amount of dollars, please don't rely on that. The last thing I want is for somebody to work 5 years longer than they had to, or that they wanted to, because they thought this rule of thumb was valid, and it is not. You really need to sit down with a financial planner and go over this. In the words of Sherman Potter from MASH, horse hockey. This is not a valid thing to go by. So please talk to a retirement specialist. And as we are here, we are retirement income certified professionals. We're fiduciaries, and this is exactly what we do: is we help somebody line up all of their finances to make sure that they are not making any mistakes when it comes to retirement, and helping you understand if you can retire this year. You could have retired a couple of years ago. If you have to work 10 more years, all depends on what your expenses are and what other kinds of income you have as well. So Marty, thank you for that question. And I'm glad you asked it, because it is one of the bigger misnomers that are out there when it comes to retirement planning. All right. If you are just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Gray. In the studio this weekend morning is Brice Payne and Garrett Ray. I want to thank you for joining us. We are, as we do once a month, we're taking our listener questions here, dipping into that mailbag. And so that was from Marty and Garrett. Let's go to Ruth in Winston-Salem. What does Ruth ask us?
Yeah, so Ruth writes in, and, she seems a little concerned here. She says, my sister and I have been trying to get Mom to deed her house over to us so that they can't take it later to pay for nursing home care. Is there anything that we should know about that process before doing it?
It's a great question.
It is a great question. I'm assuming you're worried about your mom in her later years qualifying for Medicaid should she need it and have to go into a nursing home. Very good question. Brice did the research before we went live today. And so long as your mom is, I believe, your mother is single from this question, and there's no one else but Mom living in the house, then the limit essentially is having home equity, which they can't take away from you, is $713,000. So long as Mom doesn't have a very, very large home, then she's probably going to be okay. As far as you and your sister, it may not be the most appropriate thing to deed the house over to you immediately while your mother is still living.
For another reason.
Yep, for another reason. At that point, you would essentially, once your mom does eventually pass, there's something called the step up in cost basis of an estate. So you and your sister presumably would inherit the property anyway when your mother passed. You would get the step up in cost basis of that property. So let's say that your mother purchased the home back in the 1960s, and she purchased it for, say, $40,000 back then. Well, if it's worth, say, $400,000 today, if you were to deed the house over, let's say in 2024, and your mom, maybe she didn't pass until 2034, there could be 10 years of capital gains on that house that now doesn't go towards Mom. It goes towards you and your sister. So if you ever didn't want to sell the property in the future, you'd essentially be paying or have to pay tax on that 10 years of capital gains. So there is a reason for kind of some estate planning purposes that we may not want to transfer the home over to you and your sister right away. Without knowing a little bit more personal information, some details, that would be my first pass at this point.
Yeah, and I would agree completely, Garrett. Ruth, the way that you're describing and what we understand from your question, you're trying to solve a problem that doesn't seem to exist.
Mm-hmm.
Furthermore, you might be creating a problem that will cost you more with Uncle Sam down the road. So in both of those circumstances, I think the way that you're thinking about it might not work to your advantage in two ways. But to know that for sure, as we would encourage anybody, we would encourage you to come in and sit down with us at the Wealth Guardians and go through our 4-meeting planning process to make sure that everything is lined up financially in your household and your mother's household, so that you are not paying Uncle Sam more in taxes, that you do have your portfolio allocation properly aligned, that you are going to be filing for Social Security or your pensions in the right way. But I'll focus on the taxes thing, since this question does really come down in part to taxes. Garrett, we have this last Thursday, We had our first taxes and retirement seminar this round and went very well, but we've got another one coming up here. So you're listening to this on the weekend. This upcoming Tuesday, October 8th, we've got our second round of our taxes and retirement workshop. Garrett, how much is that to attend that?
It is $0 to attend.
$0. So your retirement planner likes the idea of attending a tax seminar that costs you nothing. There's no cost or obligation to attend, but you do have to register. It's at our office in Clemens. So how do you register to make sure that we've got a seat reserved for you is giving us a call at 336-391-3409. You can also go to our website, thewealthguardians.com, and click on the events tab. If you have not filed for Social Security yet, or you have not retired yet, or maybe even if you just retired, taxes are very different when you retire than what you have been used to for the last 40 or so years. You really want to make sure you're understanding how taxes line up for you in retirement when you've got Social Security income, when there's different tiers for Social Security and how it's taxed. There's different tiers for Medicare. Different forms of income are taxed differently. You don't have W-2 income anymore, but you probably might have some other forms of income outside of Social Security. So you really want to make sure that you are having a good, solid understanding of how taxes work in retirement so that you are not paying Uncle Sam more than you need to. So again, 336-391-3409. That's this Tuesday, October 8th at 6:30 p.m. at our office in Clemens. Please give us a call to register, or again, go on our website, thewealthguardians.com. All right, well, we've got to go to break, as we always do, and then we're going to come back and take more listener questions. But Garrett, what happens before the break?
I think you probably have a trivia question for me.
I do, and you got that part right anyway. All right, let's see if you can get the second part right. Garrett, on October 3rd, 1849, this renowned poet was last seen in public for the last time, wandering the Baltimore streets sick and delirious. He was taken to Washington College Hospital and died a few days later. Who was this famous author poet known for his macabre subject matter? And I'll give you a hint. The local NFL team is named in his honor. All right. Well, stick around to see if Garrett knows the answer to that trivia question. See if we got you. This is Brice. With me is Doug Ray and Garrett Ray, and the show is The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And this is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. And this is 96.7 FM WTOB. News Talk 94.5 WPTI. 96.7 FM WTOB. Welcome back to the Wealth Guardian Show, where we help you retire the job and keep the paycheck. I'm Brice Payne in the Wealth Guardian studio, along with Garrett Ray this morning. In this segment, we're going to continue dipping into that listener mailbag and seeing what questions you guys have thrown at us over the last month, and see if we can help you have a better understanding of what retirement planning is all about from a fiduciary's perspective. Now, before we answer the trivia question that we left Garrett and you hanging with, I've got a couple questions for you. Are you planning to retire? You probably said yes if you haven't already. So have you met with a retirement income certified professional who is also a fiduciary? If you haven't, I guess I'd say, why not? If you haven't, I want to invite you to take us up on a complimentary review of your current situation. So as certified retirement planning specialists, we're going to put together a customized written plan with strategies for portfolio allocation, for income distribution, Social Security filing, tax efficiency, with the additional benefit of often reducing both the risk and fees of your current allocation. So if you've put aside at least $400,000 and you want to take us up on this no cost, no obligation review, give us a call at 336-391-3409. That's 336-391-3409, or go to thewealthguardians.com. That's thewealthguardians.com to learn more. Let us show you in black and white how to retire the job and keep the paycheck. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to this trivia question here. Garrett, on October 3rd, 1849, this renowned poet was seen in public for the last time wandering the Baltimore streets sick and delirious. He was taken to Washington College Hospital and passed away a few days later. Who was this famous author/poet known for his macabre subject matter? And here's the hint. The local NFL team is named in his honor.
Yes, they are. Quoth the Raven nevermore. That would be Edgar Allan Poe.
There you go.
I was one of the few bright spots of English class, I suppose, for me.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I like this stuff.
Yeah. I've got his one of his condensed books of a lot of his stuff. And a lot of people don't realize that why the Baltimore Ravens are called the Baltimore Ravens is because that was his home, and they're naming it after him and his famous poem, probably the most famous one he has. It remains a mystery what he passed away of. Some theories are meningitis, tuberculosis, rabies, or even alcoholism. He did like his spirits.
Yeah.
And you couldn't come up with a subject matter that he came up with without something going on.
Yeah.
Tip it back something. All right. So, it was on October 3rd, 1849. So we do want to give out a Wealth Guardians salute to him as well this weekend morning. All right, let's continue now with our questions. So we got to Marty's question and Ruth's question in the first segment. We got a couple more to get to. Let's, Garrett, move on to Helen's question in Danville.
Yeah. So Helen from Danville, Virginia, right? She says, my husband died just a few weeks ago. I'm sorry to hear that, Helen. But she goes on to say his first wife is trying to claim that she's entitled to his life insurance money, and she feels that it should go to her because that he was still paying alimony to the first wife. Helen goes on to explain, but I've been the one paying the premiums the last 10 years on the life insurance, so I feel that it should go to me. Who is right here? Well, Brice and I are not divorce attorneys, but I would say that the first thing you should reference is the original divorce decree between the first wife and your now deceased husband. And that should spell out a lot of those types of things. Typically, it is rather common if there is kind of a dependency situation, sounds like there was with the first wife, if the husband was paying alimony. If there is some sort of dependency there, then it is very common that the husband, in this case, would take out a life insurance policy on himself that would benefit more than likely minor children, but it could potentially go to the previous first wife. But when it comes to your own life insurance policy that your husband may have had, and you've been paying premiums, then in that case, I would lean towards, no, that's a policy that you and your husband took out on him. You've been paying the premiums, and that particular part of money should go to you. So it's a kind of a complicated case here without knowing too much detail. But certainly, reference the divorce decree. That's going to be kind of the guide. I would definitely pull in an attorney to, share your information with and bring the claim up from the previous wife as to what's going on. But as far as I understand, if you've been paying the premiums and this is the life insurance policy, but the purpose was that you and your husband had, like if he were to pass away prematurely, you would have some sort of reprieve, then it sounds like this money goes to you.
Yeah, this is going to be something that a arbitration is going to have to settle, or a judge is going to have to settle. Of course, who the beneficiary is listed on the policy is going to be the first answer. Yep. But as Garrett rightfully says, let's take a look at the divorce. And what does that say? Was he supposed to have, through those divorce proceedings, was he supposed to have a life insurance policy that was going to go to you? If he doesn't have that, and this is the only life insurance policy there was, then perhaps she has an argument. But
Yep.
It's really going to come down to exactly what Garrett said. So, Helen, sorry for your situation. I'm sure that this is not an easy time for you, and I'd love to give you a better, more clear answer along the lines of what you were hoping to hear. But this is really going to be a question for a legal side of things, some lawyers to help you figure out. But we do wish you the best. And if you do want to sit down with a retirement specialist to make sure that everything else is now lined up appropriately for you, since your situation has changed greatly, by all means, give us a call, 336-391-3409, and we'll sit down with you and make sure that there's no other surprises financially now that your husband has passed away. All right, Helen, thank you for the question. Let's move on now to Dwayne.
Yeah, Brice, let's get to Dwayne here. I'll throw this one to you. Dwayne in Westridge, he writes this. He says, it seems that all of the experts I hear say that you should work until you're 70 and then you start Social Security. I'm only 57 right now, and I can't imagine working another 13 years. How important is this notion of working until 70 and then taking Social Security?
All right. So, Dwayne, thank you for the question. As you may have figured out by listening to us on the radio, that Social Security is one of the three legs of the three-legged stool of income in retirement. So you really want to make sure that you're filing for Social Security the right way. There are actually many, many, many different ways that you can file for Social Security. And you are referencing kind of a misnomer that a lot of people think about when filing for Social Security. They think that when you retire is when you file for Social Security. So if you retire at 62, you file for Social Security that same week or the next week. If you retire at 65, when you stop getting the paycheck is when you file for Social Security. Really want to stress this to everybody out there who has not filed for Social Security yet. Retirement and Social Security do not necessarily line up. You can retire at age 70 or 80 for that matter and have filed for Social Security at 62. You could retire at 55 and not file for Social Security until age 70. Here's the one truth about filing for Social Security that I can tell you. It never makes sense to file for Social Security after age 70 because there is essentially an 8% growth rate on your Social Security every year that you don't file, or more accurately, 1/12 of 8% for every month that you don't file. That growth stops once you hit age 70. So if you are delaying filing for Social Security because you're trying to collect that 8% a year, great, power to you. That oftentimes works in a lot of people's favor. But at age 70, they stop giving you that 8% a year or that 1/12 of 8% every month. So you never want to wait, or I can say almost never want to wait beyond 70 to file for Social Security. But Dwayne, just because you might want to wait until 70 to file for Social Security, that says nothing about when you want to work till. Exactly. If you want to work and retire at 62 and you've got the assets to live off of so that your Social Security continues to grow as long as you don't file for it until age 70, then power to you. Look at it this way. Let's say that you've got two assets that you can live off of. Let's say that you retire at 65 and you've got the option now to file for Social Security or live off of your investments. You've got two piles there that you can draw from. Your Social Security is guaranteed to grow at 8% a year every year that you don't file for it. Let's ask that same question of your other pile of investments, your 401k or your IRA assets. Are those guaranteed to grow at 8% a year as long as you don't start taking distributions from them? Probably not. So mathematically speaking, and Garrett's an engineer here, and I'm a math teacher. Yeah, that's what we do. We're all about the numbers. Let's put all emotion aside from it because some people want to file for Social Security as early as they can. Let's put that part of aside of it and just look at it from math numbers. If you've got an option of pulling from your Social Security and turning off that 8% growth or pulling from your investments, mathematically speaking, Garrett, it's going to make more sense to pull from your investments and let your Social Security keep growing.
Yep, typically.
Typically. So Dwayne, don't get caught up in the idea that I have to file for Social Security at the same minute or the same week or the same month that I retire, or vice versa. You do not. You can be working and still collecting Social Security, though there is what's called the tax torpedo, and we really want to make sure we don't get caught in that. Or you could have those, what we call the gap years, retire and not file for Social Security for years later. You really do want to make sure you're doing it the right way. And we do have the software and we do have the understanding. In fact, we are certified with the National Social Security Association of Advisors. So we have a pretty good working understanding of how Social Security works for you. So really encourage you, Dwayne, to make sure that you have an understanding of how you can file. And unfortunately, Garrett, we don't even have time to get to Kim's question here. We're going to have to put that one off until next month, unfortunately.
Yeah, we had, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, it does indeed. Well, we want to thank everybody out there for joining us this weekend. We do appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate spending some of our weekend morning with you, and hopefully you enjoy spending some of your weekend with us. This is Brice Payne, along with Garrett Ray. The show's The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And I want to remind you, sound financial plans do not create themselves. This is News Talk 94.5, WPTI. This is 96.7 FM, WTOB.